Well, as we just discussed on the Power Panel, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe is ramping up his defense of his government's new school pronoun policy. The new rules require parental permission for trans and non-binary students under 16 to use different pronouns or names at school. LGBTQ groups launched a legal challenge against that new policy last month, arguing it violates the charter rights of gender-diverse students. But Moe says he's willing to use the notwithstanding clause to protect that new policy. Here's what he told the Canadian press. The notwithstanding clause is present for a reason, so that duly elected governments can represent their constituents when necessary. For more on this story, I'm joined now by Tyler George. He is the Saskatchewan Regional Representative for the Assembly of First Nations 2SLGBTQQIA+ Council. Tyler George, thanks for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak on an important topic.
Well, on that topic, you're calling on Scott Moe's government to repeal this policy, but today the Premier said he's ready to use the notwithstanding clause to protect his policy. What's your reaction to that news?
Well, firstly, to me, it is almost like a loophole that, Premier Scott Moe knows exactly that he's violating so much human rights. And, as Indigenous people, we have the inherent right to self-determination. And, Premier Scott Moe is utilizing this notwithstanding clause to clearly violate the rights of all of the people on Turtle Island.
Well, he hasn't done it yet, but he says he is considering it because of the legal challenges against him. And you say this is about human rights and Indigenous rights to self-determination. Premier Moe maintains this is about protecting parental rights. What do you say to that?
I think, child rights and the right of the child to have autonomy overrules parental right. Again, in our culture and Indigenous culture, we have the inherent right from our Creator to have that self-determination in finding ourselves and having our own identity. And again, that it's not controlled by the parents, the guardians. It's really the child's choice, and that's the message that I hope Scott Moe can listen to and understand.
A lot of advocates for trans rights and non-binary rights have made the point that these policies will make it extremely difficult for trans and non-binary youth, especially Indigenous, two-spirited trans and non-binary students. How do you think these policies will affect those kids?
Well, I think about the 2S plus community. A lot of us, a lot of the community don't have support within the home because we live in a society where, it doesn't have the best history, especially Indigenous people. We don't have that strong, respectful history with schools. We have, our people were subjected to residential school. So being an Indigenous person and being in schools is tough enough already for our kids. And now having this policy, implemented by the ministry, it really puts more children and youth in danger, because you look at statistics, the statistics also for suicide rates, they're high within Indigenous communities already, but they're also high for 2S plus people. And, policing gender identity and self-expression in those detrimental years of self-development are dangerous for our kids and for our youth.
Why do you think Premier Moe and other politicians are suddenly making this such a priority? Because if you look at population data, Tyler, the most recent census information we have, there's only 100,000 adults, in a population of 40 million, give or take, who identify as transgender or non-binary. I mean, that is less than 1/5 of 1% of the Canadian population. Why do you think this has taken on such an acute focus right now?
I think, even just Scott Moe's comments just today about the constituents of Saskatchewan, I question who he is consulting with and who the constituents he mentions are, because, you know, Saskatchewan, Canada has a history of not consulting with Indigenous people for many years, and it's a problem that we still have, and we continue to see. Again, this is a policy that we're not being consulted on. It affects Two-Spirit youth. Not only Two-Spirit youth, it affects our relatives in Saskatchewan. And for I think about politicians' roles and the responsibility. I'm an elected leader for Ojapways Nation as well. And when I think about a politician's role, you're supposed to protect all people, all those that are here in Treaty 4, Treaty 6. You know, in Saskatchewan, we have 74 First Nations. And as that leader, you're there to protect all people. And this policy isn't protecting all people. It's actually affecting more people. And you know, when I say consult the people. Many universities have pride centers. We have Two-Spirit advocacy groups. We have Two Spirits in Motion Society, which is a federal national organization. We have Two-Spirit Alliance of Saskatchewan. You know, what kind of consultation is Scott Moe doing? Who is he talking about when he mentions, you know, the population that wants this policy? So I asked that question in hopes that, you know, we can have that. He can invite Indigenous groups, 2S groups, to the table to consult with us to amend this poor decision that he has made, and that many provinces now are kind of snowballing from.
Tyler George, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for speaking with me today.
Thank you so much.